on, and welcome to Strange Talk with Doc 2022 year in review. The biggest news, sports, music, television, and RIPs of 2022. First off, I'd like to start by saying thank you for being with me this year. I appreciate your support. I hope that you continue to enjoy Strange Talk with Doc going into 2023. It's like I said, it's been nothing but my pleasure. We're going to go through these stories. I'm going to add my little comments. There might be some things that you might have forgotten about this year. And you also can go to my website. It's very important. You can go to my website because there are a lot of stories that I'm going to skip over. But I'm only going to deal with what I consider to be the biggest stories of the year. I'm not going to tell you every story of the year. It's no way I could do that. This would be a 5-hour show. 2022 was a busy, busy year. But if you go to my website, I have pictures, I have synopsis of every major issue that happened in the year listed. You could see it concisely, you could read it. Also would have links to future shows there, things that I'm doing as far as Strange Talk with Doc is concerned. And let's just kick this off. We're going to start off with news. 2021 on January 1st, 2021, and I'm not going to keep repeating 2022. I'm sorry about that. I'm not going to keep repeating the year. We know what we're dealing with. This is the year in review 2022. New York City Mayor Eric Adams was sworn into office in Times Square. I don't know how the people of New York are feeling about voting this man into office. As far as I'm concerned, it's been an abomination. And hopefully it'll get better, but I really have no hope of that. On January 5th, Philadelphia had a house fire that left 12 people dead, including 8 children. That was very tragic. On January 6th, we had Travis McMichaels, George McMichaels, William Roddy Bryant. They were all convicted in the death and murder of Amadou Audrey, and they were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. But William Roddy Bryant has to face at least a minimum of 30 years in prison before he is eligible for parole. Then there was the Bronx fire. It was a deadly fire that killed 19 people, including 9 children. It was the deadliest fire in 30 years in New York City. And then another 13 were hospitalized in critical condition. We had United Airlines, 3,000 employees tested positive for COVID-19. On 1/9, surgeons performed the first successful transplant of a pig heart into a human being. Mr. David Bennett received a genetically modified pig transplant in his body. He was too ill to receive a human transplant, but he then died on March 8th at the University of Maryland Medical Center. The Queen of England cut ties with Prince Andrew, stripping him all of his military titles and royal patronage. Chief Justice Stephen Breyer retired. We had bomb threats that were sent to more than 24 HBCUs over a 2-day course of time in February last year. Facebook lost users for the first time ever. Their stock plummeted 20%, wiping $200 billion off the face of Meta. They wound up losing $237 billion, the largest one-day drop in stock market history. The ISIS leader, I'm not even going to try to say this guy's name. He died in a U.S. raid in Syria. Spotify removed 113 episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience. I believe it was due to some comments that he might have made about COVID, whatever. On February 18th, ex-cop Kim Porter, who killed Dante Wright, was sentenced to 2 years in prison. The SHOT Show 2022 showed the WEE-1 tactical JR-15 rifle. This is a scaled down version of an AR platform for youth shooters. Shame on We Tactical, but that's what happened. Russia and Ukraine conflict set off on 2/23. Russian troops launched attack on Ukraine. On 2/24, Minneapolis police officer, former Minneapolis police officers Tao Tell, J. Alexander Kuhn, and Thomas Lane were all found guilty on civil rights in the civil rights trial on George Floyd's death. On 5/4, the judge accepted plea deals that would sentence Derek Chauvin to 20 to 25 years in prison. On 5/18, Thomas Lane pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting Derek Chauvin in George Floyd's case. In March, the national average gas price was $4, and in some places as high as $7. In March, also, Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio, less than 2 months after walking out of prison, was rearrested and charged with conspiracy in relation to the January 1st attack on the U.S. Capitol. Now, right here, I'm going to tell you that a lot of people in 2022 were sentenced to jail time due to the January 1st attacks on the U.S. Capitol. It is way too many to list. It's way too many to go into, but you could look that up yourself. But in 2022, the Justice Department has sentenced, it has to be well over 100 people to prison time. Jussie Smollett was sentenced to 150 days in jail and fined $25,000 for his fake, racist, homophobic attack. And on 3/16, Jussie Smollett was released from jail. Jussie Smollett served a grand total of maybe a week. 3/27, Will Smith smacked Chris Rock at the Oscars. Will Smith then had to resign from the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, and he was also banned to 2032 from attending ceremonies. Former member of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Kid Creole, real name Nathaniel Glover, was found guilty of the fatal stabbing of a homeless man. He faced 25 years, but he was sentenced to 16 years in this killing. Puerto Rico had a massive power outage, and it lasted for at least 3 days. 1.3 million customers were affected in this massive outage. The Senate voted 53 to 47 to confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson as the first Black female Supreme Court justice. We had a fatal shooting in New York City subway. Frank James shot 5 commuters. He is now, if I'm not mistaken, is going to plead guilty. We had a lot of mass shootings in in America this year. Dwayne M. Price was arrested for shooting 10 people in Columbia Center Mall in South Carolina. The Biden administration says the TSA will no longer enforce mask mandates on planes any longer. This ruling came down on April 18th. Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion on 4/25. Karine Jean-Pierre, 44, was announced as the next White House press secretary. She was born in Montego to Haitian parents. Miss Jean-Pierre grew up in New York and is the first Black and first gay person to be the White House press secretary. We had a shooting after a Milwaukee Bucks game just blocks away from the arena where 17 people were shot and wounded. On 5/14, at least 10 people were killed by this Peyton Gradon, an 18-year-old, at a mass shooting at Tops Supermarket in Buffalo. On 5/19, 2 people were killed, 7 wounded outside a McDonald's in Chicago. Jalen Sanders, Cameron Adams were the alleged shooters. That week, the 5/14 to 5/21, there were 3 mass shooters in America. Because the next one was Salvador Ramos, 18-year-old, who shot Texas Robb Elementary School, killing 19 students and 2 adults before himself being fatally shot. On 5/20, monkeypox, there were 80 confirmed cases in America. I don't know what happened to monkeypox. I don't know how it appeared. I don't know where it disappeared, but it seems like we had monkeypox one day and it was a big threat that this thing was going to go nationwide. And the next thing you know, it was over. We had another mass shooting. 4 people, including the shooter Michael Lewis, were dead and multiple people were injured following a shooting at Natalie Building at the St. Francis Hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, I'm sorry to beat you down with this, but this is what the world was. 3 people have died and at least 11 others were wounded in a shooting in Philadelphia. 3 killed, 14 injured in Chattanooga, Tennessee shooting. On 6/17, 6,000 U.S. flights were canceled or delayed. The Supreme Court overturned concealed carry laws in cities like New York and California. And then on 6/24, the Supreme Court overruled Roe versus Wade, sending abortions back to the state policy level. On 6/28, Giselle Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her role in the Jeffrey Epstein crimes. On 6/29, R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in sex trafficking case. And 6/30, Ketanji Brown Jackson was actually sworn in as the first Black female Supreme Court justice. Robert Bobby E. Chimo III was identified after the 4th of July shooting in the Chicago suburbs that killed 7 people and wounded 38 more. On 7/16, San Francisco airport terminal had to be evacuated due to a bomb threat. The UK broke records for the hottest day ever as heat waves sparked a national emergency in Europe. The Mega Millions jackpot reached the level of $1.2 billion for 7/29/2022, and the winning ticket was sold in Illinois. Thomas Lane, the police officer in the Derek Chauvin George Floyd civil rights murder, was sentenced to 2.5 years. J. Alexander Kuhn received 3 years, and Tao Teo received 3.5 for violating George Floyd's rights on 5/25. The U.S. Senate confirmed the first Black 4-star general in Marine Corps history, Lieutenant General Michael E. Langley. On 8/28, Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in Florida was searched by the FBI in the probe of handling of classified documents. Solomon Rusky lost an eye after being stabbed at a lecture in Western New York by this man, Hadi Matar, a 24-year-old who rushed the stage and attacked him. There was a water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. I went to Las Vegas between 8/24 and I was there to 8/31. I actually, for the first time in my history, hit a jackpot of $10,271.83. So it can happen, people. If you get lucky enough, it can happen to you. 10,271.83. I was introduced to a YouTube, as far as I know, YouTube preacher, Geno Jennings. Uh, I did a couple of shows on dealing with Geno Jennings and his people. We're not going to really go into that here, but this is a charismatic, over the top preacher who I seen online, and I had never heard of him before. But like I said, if you want to go back and look at some shows, you'll see it in my captions somewhere where I talk about my dealings with him and his people. R. Kelly verdict in Chicago. He was found guilty at his federal trial. So this is two guilties, one in New York, now in Chicago. On 9/18, we had Hurricane Fiona. And New York State Attorney General Letitia James announced she is suing former President Trump and his three kids for fraud stemming from a long-running civil investigation into the Trump Organization business dealings. After Fiona, we then had Hurricane Ian. On the Las Vegas Strip, there was a stabbing of 4 showgirls that left 2 dead and 6 injured. On 10/13, we had an Austin Thompson, 15-year-old, shoot and kill 5 people to death in Raleigh, North Carolina. 10/13, the January 6th House Committee subpoenaed former President Donald Trump. 10/15, suspect Wesley Brownlee was arrested in apparent Stockton serial killings. He has been linked to 7 shootings since 2021. It was a serial killer running around the streets of Stockton, California, and nobody even knew about it until 2022. Elon Musk on 10/24 completed his $44 billion Twitter takeover. The year of 2022, especially from October through the whole month of October, Kanye West had a total meltdown. He lost his sponsorships. Don's Academy had to be closed. He lost Yeezy. It was a whole mess. On 10/31, Powerball went up to over $1.9 billion. $1.9 billion. Actually, it rose to $2.04 billion, and the ticket was sold on 11/7 in California. Nicholas Cruz, the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shooter, was sentenced without the possibility of parole to life in prison for killing 17 people in the 2018 shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School. 11/8 was election day. There was no red wave. On 11/13, Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. kills 3 football players, including injuring 2 others at the University of Virginia. 11/15, former President Donald Trump announced that he would seek the Republican nomination for president in 2024. 11/17, Karen Bass became the first Black elected mayor of Los Angeles. On 11/17, more than a week after Election Day, the GOP took the House when they finally gained the minimum 218 seats to control the chamber. We are now, Election Day is no longer closing out. It's taking sometimes a week, 2 weeks, plus court dates now going forward to settle elections. On 11/19, 77 inches of snow fell in Orchard Park, Buffalo, New York. And on 11/19, 5 people were killed and 18 were injured in a shooting at a gay nightclub called Club Q in Colorado Springs. And Anderson Lee Aldridge, 22 years old, was ID'd as the suspect and arrested. We had a fatal shooting at a Chesapeake, Virginia Walmart. 7 people were killed by Andrew Bing, 31 years old. The Senate passed the vote to make same-sex marriages federal law. The U.S. House Democrat unanimously elected Hakeem Jeffries as the first black party leader. Black turnout in the midterms was one of the lowest points since 2006. The Trump Corporation and the Trump Payroll Corporation were found guilty of all counts in the Trump Organization tax fraud trial. Now, just to let you know, 11-8, one of the Senate races was not settled to 12-6 when Senator Raphael Warnock defeated Herschel Walker to win re-election in Georgia. Warnock will make history when he was elected Georgia's first black U.S. senator. This gives the Democrat the majority in the Senate, 51-49, even though one of the Democratic senators did flip and become an independent. So it's 50-49-1, and we'll see how she votes going forward. 12-13, the Respect for Marriage Act was signed into law. On 12-15, a report came out that dark chocolates contained toxic metals, and it was in every bar that was tested by these researchers, and some of them had very popular names like Hershey, Linz, and Tony Chocolonely. On 12-19, the members of the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack unanimously referred the former president to the Justice Department on charges of inciting insurrection, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., obstruction of the act of Congress, and conspiracy to make a false statement. The Justice Department will now have to decide whether or not to prosecute. On 12-23, Tory Lanez was found guilty in the Megan Thee Stallion shooting trial. 12-23, the United States went into a deep freeze. They called it the Christmas bomb cyclone and left 200 million people in the cold, 1.5 million people without power, 10,000 plus flights delayed or canceled, FedEx warning that package wouldn't arrive on time. And on 12-25, Southwest Airlines, which is still, as I speak, going through massive flight delays and cancellation, canceled almost all of their flights through the new year. Now, in a sad state of affairs, more than 6,000 children were killed or hurt by gunfire in 2022. Now, I gave you all of this not to say that, as you know, if you've been listening to this show, I am not anti-gun. I am a gun owner. I'm a proud CCW carrier. But there were a lot of innocent people injured, a lot of innocent people murdered, a lot of innocent people's lives were taken in 2022 by people who didn't respect humanity. But I have to just read what it was, tell you how it was going. If not, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. This is not a normal show. This is a recap of the year. And these things happen. I didn't make any of these stories up, not one. And like I said, this isn't the full scope of everything that happened. There are a lot of other things that I left out. I just wanted to touch on what I thought was some of the biggest things of the year. Like I said, you can go to my website and you will see the full listing with pictures. Now, sports. Antonio Brown flipped out and left the field shirtless mid-game versus the Jets on 1-2. At the time, he was playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Georgia Bulldogs beat Alabama in the national championship game 33-18. David Big Papi Ortiz was voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. the lone member of the 2022 class. On the final year of ballots, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Curt Schilling, and Roger Clemens were all declined membership. Sean Payton informed the Saints that he was stepping away as the head coach of the Saints. On 2-2, we were introduced to the Washington Commanders. On 2-4, the opening day of the Beijing, China Winter Olympics. We had the NFL awards. Micah Parsons won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jamar Chase won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year. T.J. Watts won the Defensive Player of the Year. Let me see what else is going on. Cooper Kupp was the Offensive Player of the Year. And Aaron Rodgers won back his second MVP to go back. Well, it was actually his third, but his back-to-back MVPs. The 2022 Hall of Fame class for the NFL was Tony Baselli, Leroy Butler, Sam Mills, God rest his soul, Richard Seymour, Brian Young, Cliff Branch, God rest his soul, Art McNally, and Dick Vermeil. In February, LeBron James passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to become the all-time leader in NBA history, including playoffs, with 44,152 points. Erin Jane, 29, became the first African-American woman to win gold in speed skating at the Beijing Winter Olympics. She won the 500-meter speed skating race. The Los Angeles Rams are your Super Bowl champs with a 23-20 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Cooper Kupp was the MVP in that game. The NBA announced that in 2023 on February 19th, the All-Star Game, the 72nd annual All-Star Game, will be held in Salt Lake City. Major League Baseball, due to an ongoing lockout, announced that they were canceling opening day in the first two series of the 2022 season. They then eventually did work out a new labor agreement. Brittany Griner was detained for 3 weeks in Russia after a drug arrest, and this was on 3/3. Cain Velasquez was denied bail for attempt murder and multiple gun assault charges when he fired at a pickup truck carrying a man accused of sexually abusing a 4-year-old family member. Later on down the year, Cain Velasquez was allowed to post bond. They changed their mind. They allowed him to post bond, and he's still awaiting trial in this case. The Falcons' Calvin Ridley was suspended at least through the 2022 season for betting on games. The Seahawks and the Broncos agreed to a trade to bring Russell Wilson to Denver. This has been an abomination for Russell. It's been an abomination for the Broncos. We'll see how this goes on in 2023. Deion Sanders, at the time the Jackson State Tigers football coach, had to have 2 of his toes amputated after some kind of medical setback. Duke's legendary coach Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K, retired. In the WWE, The Undertaker, Vader, Queen Sharmell, and the Steiner Brothers were inducted into the Hall of Fame class of 2022. This was also the year of Deshaun Watson. 8 women had to be subpoenaed to testify in front of a criminal grand jury proceedings on 3/11 in Houston to determine his future. Tiger Woods was inducted into the Golf Hall of Fame. The Major League Baseball lockout ended when the owners and players agreed to a new CBA on 310. Greg Popovich, better known as Pop, set the NBA coaching wins record with number 1,336. It was found out from that grand jury testimony that Deshaun Watson will not face criminal charges for sexual assault allegations. This decision came down on 311. Also on 311, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman moved to the Monday Night Football broadcast team. Big E from the WWE broke his neck live on SmackDown. Tom Brady decided that after retiring, he was going to return to the Bucs for his 23rd season. Deshaun Watson was then traded to the Browns. The Browns will give Watson a deal for 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed, the most guaranteed money in NFL history. This came about a week after the decision that he would not be facing criminal charges. Triple H, Paul Levesque, announced that he was retiring from all in-ring competition. Coach K passed John Wooden for the most men Final Four appearances with 13. Your NCAA Women Final Four was UConn, Stanford, South Carolina, and Louisville. Your men's Final Four was Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and Kansas. There are new NFL playoff rules that were put into effect. The NBA Hall of Fame class was Manu Ginobili, Go Spurs Go, Tim Hardaway, Swin Cash, George Karl, and Bob Higgins. Your NCAA Women Championship game, South Carolina beat UConn 64-49. And in the men's championship, Kansas beat North Carolina 72-69. Scottie Scheffler won the 2022 Masters. Tiger Woods, after a horrific car accident, returned to play in the Masters. He didn't do very well. And on 4/16, the USFL actually returned. 4/23, Miguel Cabrera became the 33rd NBA Major League Baseball player to join the 3,000 hit club. Let's see here. Dodger Trevor Bauer was suspended 2 seasons over sexual assault allegation. DeAndre Hopkins received a 6-game suspension for violation of the league performance enhancement policies. Daniel Cormier was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. On 5/16, Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of Raw. On 5/20, the WWE suspended Sasha Banks and Naomi and stripped them of their SmackDown titles. This is December 28th, and we're talking 7 months, and they're still not back in the WWE. Don't know if we'll ever see Sasha or Naomi back in the WWE again. Tiger Woods had to withdraw from the 2022 PGA Championship after 3 rounds. He was 21 strokes behind. He wasn't doing too well. It was a bad thing. LIV Golf appeared in 2022. A lot of players deflected over there. Bryson DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Lee Westwood, Sergio Garcia, Ian Poulter, Kevin Na, Bubba Watson. And the LIV is a Saudi-based golf series. It's kind of a weird thing. We don't know what's going to happen there. Minutes after these players left, the PGA Tour suspended all of them and said that they won't allow them to compete in PGA events, but it's very convoluted as I speak, because I believe The Masters said that they're going to let live tournament people play. So it's kind of weird. Charles Schwartzel actually won the very first live golf tournament. The WWE had to put into a probe on Vince McMahon for $3 million payments, actually to hide some affairs with former employees. The Golden State Warriors beat the Celtics in Boston in Game 6 to win their fourth championship in 8 seasons. Steph Curry won the MVP. The U.S. Open winner was Matthew Fitzpatrick of England. On 6/19, the World Swimming Governing Body banned transgender women from competing in women events. Rob Gronkowski retired after 11 seasons and 4 Super Bowls. On 6/21s, Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson settled with 20 of the 24 women who had filed civil lawsuits against him. The Colorado Avalanche beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-2 to win their third Stanley Cup in franchise history. The number 1 draft pick in the NBA was Paolo Banchero. Ole Miss baseball team won the men's NCAA College World Series. On 6/27, Rita Chatteridge, the WWE's first female referee, accused Vince McMahon of a 1992 rape. On 7/1, Brittany Griner Russian trial began. On 7/7, Brittany Griner pleaded guilty to drug charges. The USFL actually made it to its championship game, and the Birmingham Stallions won the championship 33-30 over the Philadelphia Stars. There will be some shakeups of USFL. I believe some of these teams are moving around, different names, etc. The Raiders hired Sandra Douglas Morgan as the first black woman to serve as team president in NFL history. Cam Smith won the 2022 British Open. Giancarlo Stanton won the All-Star Game MVP in MLB. Vince McMahon, 77, announced his retirement from the WWE. We got new cities. XFL in 2023, we're going to go to Arlington, we're going to go to Houston, we're going to go to Orlando, we're going to go to Vegas, we're going to go to San Antonio, Seattle, St. Louis, and Washington. Amanda Nunes became the first 2-time double champion in UFC history after she reclaimed her title against Jessica Pena at UFC 277 in Dallas. Fernando Tatis Jr. was suspended 80 games for testing positive performance-enhancing substance and will not be allowed to play anymore that year. The NFL suspended Deshaun Watson initially for 6 games for personal conduct violations, but 2 weeks later, he was fined $5 million and the suspension was increased to 11 games. The NBPA and the NBA announced that on number 6, in honor of Bill Russell, will be permanently retired as a jersey number in the NBA. Bill Russell passed away last year, people. The FedEx Cup, Will Zolaris was the winner. Patrick Chanley won the BMW championship, and Rory McIlroy won the Tour championship. I actually made money on Patrick Chanley winning. I was in Vegas at the time. It was good for me. Leon Edwards dropped Kamaru Usman with a kick to the head and neck in the final minute of the 5th round to beat Kamaru Usman and win the welterweight championship at UFC 278. On 9-2 at the U.S. Open, Serena Williams ended her career with her third round loss. The NBA announced it was disciplining the Phoenix Suns and Mercury owner Robert Saleh, fining the billionaire $10 million and suspending him from all league functions for one season. I don't know if this dude is like a back and forth. He says he's going to sell a team, and then so far nothing has happened. Roger Federer, 41, is retiring from tennis. He's a 20-time Grand Slam champion. The Los Angeles Aces won the WNBA championship. Kelsey Gray is the finals MVP. Aaron Judge became the sixth player to hit 60 home runs in a season, and he took over the single-season AL record when he hit his 62nd home run on 10-4. Robert Saleh did announce that he had plans to sell the Phoenix Sun and the Mercury amidst his controversy. On 9/22, the Boston Celtics suspended coach Ime Udoka for the 2023 season, at least the 2023 season, and we don't know where it's going from there. Albert Pujols joined the exclusive 700 home run club, which only has 4 members: him, Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth. The World Series, Houston Astros pitched a no-hitter. This is the first time since 1956. It was a 3-pitcher deal. Tom Brady surpassed 100,000 career passing yards. 87,000 in regular season, another additional 13,000 in the postseason. Justin Verlander won the LA Cy Young. Sandy Alcantara won the NL Cy Young. Aaron Judge won the most valuable player for the AL. Paul Goldschmidt won for the National League. Deion Sanders is leaving Jackson State to become the head coach at Colorado. Aaron Judge re-signed with the New York Yankees a 9-year, $360 million deal. And on 12/8, Brittany Renner was finally released from a Russian prison 10 months after her arrest. USC quarterback Caleb Williams won the 2022 Heisman Trophy Award. The Minnesota Vikings mounted the biggest comeback in NFL history, after falling behind 33-0 at halftime to beat the Indianapolis Colts 39-36 in overtime. They scored 39-3 points to beat the Colts. I watched that game. It was amazing. It was insane how much the Colts fell apart. Lionel Messi and Argentina beat France on penalty kicks to win the World Cup, and it's Argentina's 3rd World Cup championship. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, defensive end J.J. Watts announced that he is retiring at the end of the 2022 season. Now, music. The 2022 Grammy Awards was postponed over Omicron risks. Some of the best music of the year was Nas's album Magic, The Offspring Let the Bad Times Roll, Yellow Wolf and DJ Paul, Slumafia, Eddie Vedder's Earthling. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class for 2022 was Eminem, Dolly Parton, Duran Duran, Eurythmics, Carly Simon, Lionel Richie, Pat Benatar, Judas Priest, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis. And some of the awards went to Harry Belafonte, Jimmy Iovine, Sylvia Roberts. Another album that was also fantastic was Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale and the Big Stepper. Taylor Swift became the first artist in music history to be the entire top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Let me repeat that again. Taylor Swift became the first artist in music history to be the entire top 10 on the Billboard's Hot 100. Florence and the Machine's album Dance Fever was fantastic. David Byrne's Days in the Wilderness was a great album. And now television. We had The Walking Dead's final season. Peacemaker was very good. Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, fantastic. Top Boy Season 2, which is not really Season 2, but it's kind of weird how they numbered it because I think it's like really Season 4, but because they took so many years off, they're calling it The Return, so Season 2. I watched basically the entire Law and Order universe, meaning SVU and the regular Law and Order, all over again. WrestleMania 38 was fantastic. Legendary Season 3 was great. I don't know if Megan Thee Stallion will be returned. Matter of fact, Megan Thee Stallion did not return this season. I watched the documentary Look at Me Triple Extension. That was very good. The Secrets of Playboy, which was very disturbing. Biography, Bobby Brown. The Boys Season 3 was good. A documentary called The Filth and the Fury, a Sex Pistol film. That was very good. Abbott Elementary, Season 1 and Season 2. Everybody should be watching this. It's great. You can watch it with your children. There's not going to be anything over the top here. Dark Side of the 90s, Season 2 was very good. 30 for 30, Dream On, which I believe was a story of the WNBA. That was very good. The Bear, a brand new TV show, was very good. The Captain documentary on Derek Jeter was good. We had Better Call Saul's final season. We had They Call Me Magic, which was his version of Michael Jordan's documentary where he sat in a chair and told his story. We Own the City was very good. Saturday Night Live had a mass exodus. Season 43, Kate McKinnon, Pete Davidson, Adie Bryant, Kyle Mooney, Melissa Villaseñor, Alex Moffat, Aristotle Hatari, Chris Reed, Cecily Strong, all left the show. Hard Knocks, Detroit, that was preseason. Hard Knocks in season, the Arizona Cardinals, both very good. Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 2. It was good, but it was not as outstanding as Season 1. We had the first season of The House of Dragon, which I enjoyed and can't wait for Season 2. Family Guy is Family Guy. That's always a winner to me. We had the Yankees versus the Dodgers and Uncivil War. Very good. Vice TV gave us Tales from the Territory if you're a wrestling fan. The WWE Crown Jewel 2022 was an outstanding card. Say Hey Willie Mays was a very good documentary. A Football Life Season 11, which is ongoing as I speak, is very good. There was Last Chance U Basketball Season 2, very good. Call Me Miss Cleo, documentary about, Miss Cleo, the network psychic, phone psychic. They did a documentary about her. Then we had Shaq, Dream Big, which was a version of The Captain, also a version of Magic, and also a version of what Michael Jordan did. Becoming Ric Flair, documentary that was just released a couple of days ago, very good. Coach Prime, which will be released on December 29th, which I'm already predicting will be good and worth watching. I also rewatched this season The Complete Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and Seinfeld. All winners. If you've not seen any of them, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, or Seinfeld, you should need to watch them. If you got nothing else to do, these are well worth it. The NFL Honors program was a very good show. And Peaky Blinders also had their final season. I believe that they have a movie set up down the road, but as far as the TV show goes, Peaky Blinders bowed out and they did a good job. Now I'm going to say the RIPs and I'm going to get out of here. I like to say an RIP to all the COVID-19 people, everybody who's lost their lives to COVID-19, all the mass shooters, victims. Betty White finally passed away, but I believe it was in December of 2021, so she wasn't on my last show. Max Julian passed away. Greg Robinson passed away. Bob Saget passed away. We had those Bronx fires. Mr. Olympia, Chris Dickerson passed away. Comedian Louis Anderson. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law. New York Yankee Gerald Williams. Jeremy Giambi. Scott Hall. John Clayton from ESPN. The University of Southwest golf team. Madeleine Albright. Taylor Hawkins, drummer for the Foo Fighters. Gilbert Gottfried, comedian. Dwayne Haskins, NFL quarterback. Mike Bossy, New York Islanders legend. DJ K. Slay. Guy LaFleur. Bob Lanier. Fred Ward. Ray Liotta. Marion Barber III. David Hebner. Tim White, both WWE. Tony the Goose Saragusa. The Abandoned Trailer. All those lives lost in the Abandoned Trailer. James Caan. Tony Sirico from The Sopranos. Paulie Walnuts. Bill Russell. Michelle Nichols. Vince Scully. Roger E. Mosley. Coach Mike Hickman, who was murdered while coaching Pee Wee football by former NFL player's brothers, allegedly at this point, because he has not went to trial. Howard Stern's father, Ben Stern. Ernie Shavers. Elias Thibodeau. Morris Willis. Coolio. Antonio Inoki. The Hurricane Ian victims. The Indonesia soccer stampede. My buddy Bedrock Dino. Sarah Lee, tough alumni. The Las Vegas Strip stabbing victims. Angela Lansbury. Takeoff from the Mingos. Jerry Lee Lewis. Two of my buddies again, Charles B. Durham and Steve Vo Waddell. Anthony Rumble Johnson. Irene Cara. Christy McVie. The boxing judge Mills Lane. Stephen Twitch Boss. Franco Harris and Stephen Bonner. Those are some people I just wanted to say a rest in peace to. There is a complete list of all the other people who passed away in 2022. I can't go through them all right now. I'm not trying to beat you to, I'm not going to even use that term. I'm just not trying to beat you in the head with all of that. And I also have a list of people who passed away, and nobody should give a rat's ass that they're gone because they didn't add anything worth a damn to this planet, unless you loved them personally. But it was an interesting year, and I hope that I brought back some memories of some things that you might not even thought about anymore. You said, did that really happen last year? Yeah, well, it happened last year. And we're going to go on with the show as we normally go on with the show. And I will be doing the best that I can to give you a weekly show that will be posted every Monday. You could look for it Monday morning, or you could actually do something even better. You could actually call me and talk to me. I have an open phone line. Like I said, all that stuff's on my webpage, how to contact me, how to leave a suggestion. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to donate anything. All you have to do is go there and, you know, say how you feel, or give me an idea of what's going on with you and what you want to discuss with me. This way I'm not blindsided. At least I have a heads up. And I'm going to tell you, like I tell you each and every time, people, peace to you. Happy New Year's. Be safe out there. Don't drink too much. And please, if you're going to drink, if you're going to smoke some weed or whatever you're going to do, don't get behind the wheel of an automobile. You're a big baller. You can afford a Uber. You can afford a Lyft. You can afford to have somebody drive you where you need to be. You do not need to be behind the wheel of a car. And I'm going to tell you, like I said, once again, peace to you and peace to yours. I'll see you in 2023.